All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back after the super, super long pause I took. Sometimes social media, you got to disconnect, unplug, and just kind of simmer down a little bit. And that's what I did. Came back now. Got a guy here. He's pretty big on the Instagram from what it looks like. It's kind of where most of his stuff is. His name is Jason. Another Marines, right?
Correct. Yeah.
You're like my fourth Marine, like in a row. So it's like I've got like four Marines now. So apparently I keep this Marine trend going. Um, but Jason, he does a lot of good stuff. I came across his Instagram. He shares a lot of good information on there, even some stuff I didn't even really know. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It provides valuable information. I'm not going to take too much away from what he does on Instagram and what he tries to do, because then that would kind of defeat the purpose of everything. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jason just talk about himself for a little bit and what he did in the Marines and all that stuff. And then we'll just go from there. Go ahead, Jason.
Right on, Eric. Thanks for having me today, man. I'm stoked to connect with you and just be on the other end of the podcast. So thanks for having me, man.
No problem.
My story a little bit. I enlisted in the Marine Corps at 17 years old. Wasn't really too into school during high school, and so I knew college was not the right route for me. Ultimately convinced my parents to sign. Either they signed for me at 17, or I sit around for 6 months doing absolutely nothing and sign when I turn 18.
So me too. I joined at 17 also, man.
Right on. Yeah. So it worked out. I shipped out a little bit after my 18th birthday, January 3rd, 2011. And even though I was trying to go in as intel, I don't really know what happened amongst it. I ended up as an aviation operations specialist. So kind of like airfield management type stuff is what I ended up doing out of Camp Pendleton. And I found out like 2 days after I got my orders to Camp Pendleton that was a non-deployable unit. And so initially I was kind of like, all right, what does that mean exactly? I work here for 4 years and do nothing else. And that's kind of like what it ended up being. And so I realized like, okay, I have this basically 9-to-5 job. The Marine Corps is not going to send me anywhere anytime soon. So let me kind of like re-gauge on what my mindset is, how I'm thinking about this opportunity, and recognize that there's a lot of time and a lot of resources available to me, and how can I use those to prepare for whatever is next, whether it be staying in or getting out. And so that's kind of what I did. I focused on TA, focused on, saving money, enjoying the Southern California life, learning how to surf, excelling at my job, pursuing boards, pursuing meritorious promotions and things like that. Ultimately decided to get out after 4 years. But on the way out, I found out about a reserve opportunity, kind of like kept my foot in the door with that within the IRR. And then within the last couple of years, pursued an opportunity in the Guard, which is ultimately kind of fell through. So now I'm kind of re-gauging, like, do I want to continue? 10 years in, is there more for me? If that opportunity didn't work out, is there something else I want to do? So kind of in the midst of figuring that out. But basically, I kind of realized over the years that there have been so many opportunities within the military that I didn't know existed when I first joined. And so I just like, man, I keep finding these nuggets that if like I knew day one, I would have been, that much better off. And so basically just trying to like shine light on those opportunities so people that are thinking about joining know how to use and leverage their military service, to prepare themselves for either a long military career or just 4 years and get out and be better off than they were when they joined. So right. That's kind of like my mission, is just to help people leverage their time in and, prepare them for that transition when it comes.
Right. And I know, like, and one thing for me, and everyone knows about the post 9/11 GI Bill and things like that and whatever, but what a lot of people don't know is that you don't touch any of that while you're active duty. It's literally free school, literally.
Yeah.
And like, I know me personally, I never took a SAT test, and I went to Central Texas College to get an associate's degree. Almost did, and then I got my dumbass, just because of all the deployments and the training. I should have did stuff online, but didn't. But I finished that just on the tail end of getting out of the service, and then got accepted at Portland State University, no SAT. You know what I mean? So it's like there are those things where most of those schools will accept you.
It's true.
You know, and you don't really need that SAT. I mean, I could be wrong, but Portland State didn't ask me for mine. Like, I just applied and they accepted me.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was applying to undergrad, like I applied to a couple Ivies, and I don't even think at those they required SAT. I think it was optional for non-traditional students. So, especially because like I took them in high school when I was thinking I was going to college. Whatever the scores were, I know they were horrible. I don't remember what they were, but I know they weren't good. So thankfully, those weren't required. But yeah, I mean, if you're just trying to avoid that SAT or ACT, then that's what we'll do. Just put it off.
Yeah, no, for sure. So like for when your resources, where do you find your resources? You just Google every day, or like do you kind of go off people tell you? Because I know we were talking before and you were kind of finding out some stuff you didn't know about. And I have no problem sharing that stuff with you offline for what I know to kind of help people who listen to you. So like, where do you get your stuff at?
A lot of it is like connecting with somebody like this. I hear something, I go do more research on it. Sometimes I literally just go to the VA website and be like, hey, like before I started trying to make content to provide these resources, like I never really thought about like, let me just go to the VA website and see what resources exist I don't know about. And if I'm not thinking that way, then surely there are a lot of others that aren't thinking that way too. So I kind of just go dig around the VA website and see what I can find sometimes. And, there have definitely been some nuggets that I had no idea existed.
Yeah. Oh no. And even this, like your own state website too, like you'll be surprised. Yeah. Like I know, because I was in Oregon, now I live just across the Columbia River in Washington, and like the rules are night and day different. Yeah. For Oregon, if you are 50% rated disability or above, you get a handicap placard, veteran. So you get a handicap. Yep, you get one, and they give you the military license plate or the disabled veteran license plate, and you don't have to pay for registration ever.
No kidding. So
registration's paid for. Like mine now, I came to Washington. I have the Washington disabled veteran plate. One-time registration fee. Don't have to pay registration for my vehicle ever again. But the catch for their handicap is you have to provide a prescription. Where Oregon, it's just like, hey, you're 50%. Here you go. Choo, you're good to go. Here's your handicap. Like where Washington's like, no, you need a prescription and you have to be above. What was it? Same thing. I think it was like 50%. Oh no, you have to be 100% and you need a prescription. So see, like the states are different. He's really just going to your state website and then looking for stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, I posted something about that the other day about how every state has their own veteran benefits for eligible veterans. And I mean, obviously you get to pick and choose what's important to you, what's worth pursuing. But a lot of them, like vehicle registration, that's depending on your state, that could be hundreds of dollars a year. And it's like,
yep,
that's a pretty sweet deal. And, you're wasting my money anyway. So
yeah,
I mean, not pay that.
It's good for one vehicle. So, and then and you can kind of double down on it too, because I know that you can do that. And if you have a Purple Heart, you can get those plates thrown on another vehicle, and now you don't have to pay registration ever.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's wild.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't up the limit to like 2 vehicles, because most traditional families now have like 2 vehicles, and like, even like for me, I have a truck and my fiance has a bigger truck. I mean, yeah, I drive her bigger truck sometimes, but like, why can't I get my plates or like a different set of plates on her vehicle? Because it's like
they can't be giving everybody free registration.
Well, I know that's why it should just be spouses, just spouses.
Yeah.
So that way it's covered. But so like for you, I was gonna ask you, are you like in the Guard right now, or like you still IRR, or like
I'm currently in the Guard? Yeah.
Guard and Marine, right? Marine.
No, there's no Marine Corps Guard.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that. I thought there was. Yeah. So Air Force.
So currently in the Air Guard. Yeah.
Air Guard.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what you're talking about. You were kind of like in limbo and not really sure.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. It's still kind of an ongoing thing. It's not over yet. So like, basically I was hired to be a pilot in the Air Guard. And then didn't ultimately work out. So now I'm in this position where it's like, I got to choose, like, is there something else I want to do in the Guard, or do I just call it and be like, all right, that was enough for me. There's not really another job I want to pursue, so let me just kind of duck out now. So, that song has not finished yet, so we'll see.
Still, the fat lady hasn't sung yet.
Yeah.
So your transition now from like active to where you're at now, how was that? Like, was it easy? Was your unit supportive? Where they kind of like just get out? Like mine was not supportive. Mine people who watched and heard me say mine was horrible. Told you a little bit about mine offline before we got on here.
Yeah.
So, and I'm always curious to see, because I've had some people come on here where the transitions were great, smooth sailing, no waves, clear as a whistle. Then there's some where it's like literally you took a box of Legos and just threw it on the ground and there's shit everywhere, like mine.
Sure.
So,
and and I think that's like, that's the transition is definitely, the stereotype is that it's a problem. It's a problem area for a lot of people. And I transitioned from active to, reserve IRR kind of thing back in 2015. So like, was it smooth? It was relatively smooth. I mean, it was stressful. Like I felt like I did everything I could at the time to prepare for that transition. Like I made sure I had money in the bank. I made sure I had no debt. I knew what I was doing after that transition. Like I was enrolling in school, and I was pursuing what my childhood dream, quote unquote, was of a medical doctor. And so, but at the time I didn't know that like how much life changed. So I started pursuing the whole medicine thing and realized like, I don't want to be in school for 12 years. This is like, I hated school in high school. I kind of had this like newfound motivation and ability to kind of like push through walls, after the Marine Corps. I was like, all right, I can push, but it's like, well, can I push for 12 years? Like, is the end goal actually worth it to me? So my difficulty didn't really come with that transition from going active duty to college, because I was already, a part-time student online. Like I had my mind was still working as a student, and I was trying to keep up that muscle. But it more came a little bit later of realizing, when I realized like I don't think I actually want to be a doctor. Like I have to like rethink about what I actually want to do with my life. And so I've kind of come back to that drawing board a couple times in life, and I'm now recognizing that like that's really okay. Like you don't actually have to know what you're going to do with your whole life, as long as you're continuously progressing forward on something and not just like sit on the couch waiting for the answer to fall in your lap, because that's not how life works. So, I don't think that I think my transition struggle came a little bit delayed. It wasn't like as immediate, though it was definitely stressful. I remember like I definitely lost my appetite. I got my DD 214. I was like, what do I do now? Like even though I knew what I was supposed to do, I just like all of a sudden forgot everything. And then,
it's a whole thing. Like, because we, especially for someone who's been as long as me, and even like, short time as you, from the moment you wake up, from the moment you go to bed, you got someone telling you what to do.
Yeah.
And it's not like in like a bossy way. It's just I don't know how you guys did it, but like for me, like every morning we'd have a meeting at 6, do our PT at 6:30, and meet up at like 8:45, 9 o'clock to talk about what's going to go down for the day. And then on Wednesdays, there'd be training meetings to talk about the week or the month. So it's like you knew what you were doing. Well, for the most part, because even the crap on the calendar isn't even predictable, because that could like change like the moment the meeting's over, you know, but you knew what you were doing, and you constantly had someone telling you what to do, where now it's like you're out. There's no first sergeant. There's no gunnery sergeant. There's no like, hey, what am I supposed to do today? And then you're going to be talking to like the air, because there's no one.
Yeah.
And you can't really call like your buddies who are in still, because they're still doing it. They're still they got their service members to take care of, and make sure that they're trained and ready. So it's like, and I'm sure that they'll help you, but they can't, in a sense, because you're on two different playing fields now. You're on the outside and they're still in. So you kind of, this is where you learn. I see it as like you learn a lot about like yourself personally. Like you learn a lot, and you might have to go through some rough patches, but you learn though.
For sure. And I think no matter like where, if you're getting out to go to school or getting out to go to a job, unless you're one of the, I guess, I don't know how many actually do it, that go from like military to civilian contractor on base, where like, I've had some friends do that and it seems like super seamless. I mean, they're just like taking off the uniform, next day going in civilian attire, making 3 times as much. And it's like, oh, all right, like nothing's changed except your paycheck and your uniform.
Yeah.
So, that's a pretty sweet way to do it. But if you're going, to a different workplace where like you're the only vet there, or to school where you're the only vet and the only person over like, 23 years old kind of thing. Yeah, it can definitely feel a little bit isolating. And so,
Oh yeah, it felt like that when I was going to school. Because I have a service dog. His name's Kenobi.
Cool.
He's a Czechoslovakian Shepherd, and before all the COVID crap, I would take him to Portland State University, and people would like kind of look at me like they look at him because he's a damn cute ass dog. He's an 80-pound Shepherd with a floppy right ear, So like, but then they would look at me, and at that time I still wasn't really in the right headspace. So like my face would look. The face I had was like, well, if you want to test this, you're gonna fail. That was the face I had. Like, don't mess with me, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a presentation where I actually kind of, at least for that class, I broke the stigma that all veterans are crazy, just because that we're not. Like, not all of us are crazy because we have PTSD. And and just because it's PTSD doesn't mean it's combat PTSD. It could be sexual assault, sexual harassment. It could be bullying. It could be a training accident that happened, And I broke that stigma, and I did a music video. I didn't do it. I used a music video from a guy who I had come on here, rapper Soldier Hard, Jeff Barrios. I used one of his videos, and after I used that video, combining with my presentation that I gave, I had half the class crying. My teacher had her jaw open, like you could feel like okay, I made an impact. Cool, and that's kind of like where I was like, okay, this needs to do more, because if I can make an impact to civilians, then let's do this. And then my fiance kind of gave me the idea to start this whole thing where I'm at now, and kind of like how you do, you meet some pretty neat people across the way, like
totally.
Then it's like, dang, like you meet some pretty cool people. Some you kind of talk to more than others. And you never know who you come across. Like, I've spoken with Jessica Lynch. She's a really nice person. She's so sweet. She's nice. It's super cool, man. And I know you've come across some pretty cool people. I've checked out your podcast a couple times.
Yeah, when I started the podcast, like I kind of just did it for like fun and like, maybe to make a buck or two like down the line, but where the real value is in the networking, and so now I know, like, when I told a couple of people initially that started a podcast, and they kind of like roll their eyes like, oh, everybody's starting a podcast, and like those people, they don't understand where the value of the networking is, And it's like, not everybody's just starting a podcast to like think they're the next Joe Rogan, because be real, like we won't, most of us won't be. And so yeah, I mean, I think that really everybody should just start a podcast, because you meet a ton of great people.
Oh yeah, like I've met like nonprofit people, like get in contact with nonprofits, and then now that's resources that I put out for people to help. Kind of like, I like your little buttons you have on the Instagram where you have like the financial and the things like that. Like, I was looking through them, and there was some stuff, and I was like, well, shit, a poop screenshot, like. I was like, I didn't know that. Bam. And I took a couple screenshots of stuff. So it's like, and that's what I do. I look for the value on what people put out, and you put out some pretty good value. And even though you're only Marines like for 4 years, that still doesn't take away from what you were ready to do, because we all know if it wants to hit the fan one day, it doesn't matter what your job is.
Yeah.
Like, you're called, you are called to protect the country. That's your job, regardless whether you're an AC repair mechanic or a cook or infantry.
Yeah.
But like I said, Marines are all infantry anyway, so
that's their slogan at least. But I think every Marine knows that's not true.
But I like that. I like to tease Marines a lot. My fiance, she's Marine background, so I give her a little bit of stuff like every now and then about like Marines, and she's laughing at the kick that there's been like 4 Marines in a row now here.
Fun.
So it's like, well, I don't know, maybe I was supposed to go to the Marine. I don't know, but so have you guys coming up
At
here?
this point.
Yeah, I know it's with everything going on now. Kind of glad I'm not in the military at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're still kind of up in the air. So I don't know, but that's just
Yeah.
for me on the Army side. I'm only speaking for the Army. I can't speak for any other branch and what they do and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But you still in California, right?
No, I'm in New England now.
New England, is that like?
Yeah, like northeast of the US.
Oh, okay. All right. I always get mixed up with that because I was like New England Patriots. I'm like, what is that? Like Maine or something? Like,
I'm just being a little vague about my state.
oh, okay. No worries then. New England then.
Yeah.
We'll call it that. Okay.
Too small up here to specify, you know.
I know that you were East Coast, so that's why I was like, wait, because then you said you were. Most people when they get out of the service, they kind of stay where they're at.
I did stay in California for a while. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
And I mean, one, because I had like great community out there that I wanted to stick around with. Two, because I was amazed at the affordability of California community colleges. So it afforded me to like not use my GI Bill for the first, I don't know, whatever it was, 2 years, 3 years of college, because it was $45 a credit in California. And then like, you get the Pell Grant, and then California has a BOG, Board of Governors fee waiver or something like that. So like everybody that gets out of the military is, they qualify. And so basically tuition's free, and then the Pell Grant's refunded to you, and then you apply for a couple of scholarships, and it's like, well, basically you're getting the BAH through, those grants and those scholarships paid to you. And so you can sustain off that while preserving the GI Bill for something that's a little bit more significant.
That's nice, man. That's super cool. And then people forget about Voc Rehab too, so that's a whole nother thing.
I'm applying for that right now, actually. So I'm hoping I will do an in-depth video with that experience, because it's a pretty lengthy process. The application, they give you assignments. So it's a very valuable program for sure.
Yeah, and I signed up for it like, what is it, like a year ago, where I was trying to switch to it, but like and I guess it depends on who you get to, because the person I had, she was not very easy to work with. And it just seemed like because there's some things you have to do in order to get like accepted. You have to like kind of prove that you need to do that, and and you could be working. They prefer you not working, but even if you are, you got to kind of prove what you're doing. And I remember mine. She was like, okay, well, I need salary rates for your job and this, that, or whatever that you want to do. And I sent her all that, and she's like, no, it's not good enough. And I was like, the title literally says salary rates median for where I'm living. How is that not good?
Yeah.
And then she was pregnant, and that was it. And then she left.
So that's definitely kind of similar to the outprocessing with the DAV, where like, whoever your examiner is, doctor, whoever, they have a lot of say in the end result. Similar to the Voc Rehab, I don't know what they call them, mentor,
counselor or something.
Counselor, yeah, that's the word. The Voc Rehab, or now it's called VRE, Veteran Reemployment, Veteran Rehabilitation and Employment. So that counselor, they have a tremendous amount of say in how that benefit goes for you and that program goes for you. So, you want to develop a relationship with them as much as possible, and just kind of be honest and straightforward with them so they can help you out, as best as possible. But they do have a tremendous amount of say.
Yeah, they do, because I know it was like it was frustrating. Like, and then I kind of just backed off, and like school was coming up again. I was like, oh, forget it. I'm just going to keep using my GI Bill, and just, maybe that's something I'll explore later. Maybe not, because I'm almost done with school anyways now, finished in December. So,
nice. Are you going to have any GI Bill left?
I think it's all used up, actually.
Okay.
I think it's all used up.
So yeah, one of the things that I've come across in my research is that like there are programs that are available to vets but only if they have like a day of the GI Bill left. So like one that I came across recently was Vet Tech, which is basically kind of a continuation of the GI Bill. So if you have one day of the post 9/11 GI Bill remaining in your balance, you qualify for Vet Tech, which is essentially assistance for vets to get certificates and additional training in like high demand tech careers. So whether it be like a computer programming boot camp or something like that, there's a whole list of opportunities. But they're mostly certificates. They're not going to send you back for a 4-year degree. It's
Right.
like, do a 4-month program. They pay for the program. You get the BH while you're in it. But if you have exhausted your GI Bill, you don't rate it anymore.
So does that so that pulls from your GI Bill, or do they pay you just because you have GI Bill left?
It does not count against your GI Bill balance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it works the same as far as the value, but it doesn't actually count against what you have in the GI Bill bank.
That's cool. I wrote that one down. Tech certs.
Yeah. Vet tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Vet tech. That's pretty neat. Especially I work at Intel, and maybe I'll take some of them. Because it seems it's more like almost like trade school kind of, where they just kind of certify you like okay, you're certified like almost for like project management, like PMP or something like that, or
yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, I'm not in the tech field, so like I know there's like cloud, courses you can take. There's programming courses. There's different software things that you can get involved in. So I mean, it's a pretty significant list, and then there are a number of locations, in course resident locations that you can attend, or you can do an online program. And obviously the BH reflects the same way as it would with the GI Bill.
Right. Yeah. So if you're doing a resident course, you'll get full. Whether if you're doing an online only, then seems like they mirror their BH rates what the VA does.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Any other ones? Like I know you got Vet Tech. You got any other ones out there to kind of throw out there?
There's a VRAP, Veteran Rapid Reemployment, something, VRRAP. I forget what it stands for. There was a VRAP a number of years ago, but the VRRAP is a COVID relief program. And this is for those that do not have GI Bill remaining and they lost their job because of COVID. And this basically gives them, if approved, an additional 12 months of the GI Bill to go pursue like an additional education of really whatever you want to then get reemployed.
Oh, nice.
That's
a good one, especially it looks like they kind of just came up with that one on the spot.
Yeah, I think it was in the last round of the COVID relief legislation.
No, that's pretty neat. I like that one. And I know for most of them know about Yellow Ribbon too. That also kind of helps out.
Dude. Yeah, huge. I'm a really big advocate. Like, while you're in and while you're out, I mean, there's so many ways to like strategize your either time in the military or the benefits that you've earned. And it's disheartening to see people use the GI Bill. Like I went when I was in community college in California, $45 a credit. Like people are using the GI Bill at that school, where it's like, dude, you're getting like maybe $10,000 worth of value from this. Whereas if you like somebody else could do their whole undergrad in the California system for like super cheap for $10,000, and then they could apply to Harvard Medical School and use the GI Bill with the Yellow Ribbon program to go to Harvard Medical School completely free. So that's like either $10,000 or like $250,000 of value from the same benefit. And so I think having a long-term perspective of thinking like, okay, like realistically, how much school do I think I'll ever want to pursue? And then sure you're saving that GI Bill for the long run.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't learn all that stuff until I was about 3/4 of the way through school. And I was just like, oh, dang it. Like if I would have known those little things, I would have done stuff a little differently.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are a little bit too eager to get the BAH, like they get out and this is kind of why I try to talk about how like the preparation for the transition starts day one of the contract, not like 3 months before you get out, because I think a lot of what will ease the transition pains is financial readiness, and so if you get out, you're not in debt, you've got a good chunk of savings, like, how to sustain yourself, live on a budget, live frugally. You're not going to be so quick to jump on using the GI Bill because you need that BAH. And so if you're able to refrain from using the GI Bill, maybe work part-time while going to school, applying for scholarships and grants, like there is so much money out there for undergraduate college. It's ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. As long as you're not trying to go to some private school, for the most part, it's just really unnecessary. There's so many ways to get funding for undergrad. And as you go higher in education, it gets more and more difficult. So
totally, for sure. Like, the whole undergraduate. That's why, like, I pushed my graduation out a little bit just because of maximizing GI Bill. And I was like, well, because I was coming up on finishing and school would have ended. And I was like, well, if I can tack on more degrees, why don't I just keep going to school at Portland State University? And I'll be finishing with 2 degrees for sure. A third one if I can pull it off. Just depends on how the classes fall. Like, I might be able to pull off a third one. Depends on if I graduate or if I pass those classes, because they're communications classes and those classes are hard as hell. So it's like it just depends. And you can do it right. You can walk away with some degrees and then use your VRE to push for a master's if you can sell it right to your counselor.
It gets a little bit tricky when you already have an undergraduate degree, like, because it's something that I'm currently processing through, because like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I'm like, like, I just want to work, so let me get a degree as fast as possible. So I ended up getting like a basket weaving degree, and so because I have a BS, it's like it takes a little bit more work to get the VR&E, because it's like, well, you should already be employable, like, what happened, kind of thing. And so I wouldn't use up your GI Bill in undergrad assuming you'll be able to get VR&E. Like, that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, because you don't know if you'll get it or not.
Yeah, and especially like we were saying, like, each counselor has a lot of say in that, and so if you get a counselor that's maybe not as generous, or maybe a little bit stingy with the program dollars, then they can deny you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and they'll just shut you down, and then you'll be like, oh, I mean, now you got to get student loans and all that stuff.
Dude, don't do that. Don't do it. Yeah, don't do it.
Student loans. Oh man. No, yeah, definitely stay away from those if you have to. They help, if you're covered, but I mean, just stay away from them.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is all like good info, and I love getting information and sharing it out there, because financial is like the huge thing right now, and this can, especially if you're going to school, it can ease burdens.
Yeah.
Going to school, especially with like veteran stuff. Like, I used to for a while. I would sit there and just look up, okay, veterans benefits financial. You type in keywords on the internet for Google searching, and you can't necessarily type out a sentence because it's not going to work. So you have to type in like veteran hardship relief, veteran hardship. You type in very specific keywords, and you'll find a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
And oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, like, finances in general, like, it's everywhere on, like, everybody's just like flexing. Everybody's just like, look at my sick Gucci, whatever, everybody's trying to floss. And so everybody feels the need to like get more money so they can just go floss more. And it's like, Instagram's a super dangerous place for that. And so I try to encourage people, like, don't focus on like making more money or getting more money, more benefits, but just like living on a little bit less, like, you don't need as much as you need. And like, you're just gonna make life difficult on you and stress out over finances when you're doing things like that you don't need, just to like impress people that you don't like as Gary Vee says it. And so I think that getting out, and if you've disciplined yourself during your 4 years or however many years of living on a budget and under your means, you're going to be amply prepared for that transition out when finances are going to be like probably one of the biggest stressors as you're transitioning, going through school, figure out a new career, all of a sudden have to like pay for your living rather than living in the barracks kind of thing. So I think making a practice of living on less early on and delaying that lifestyle expansion is only going to benefit you in the long run.
Oh yeah, and it's like a lot of you don't realize till you get out too. It's like everything's kind of covered. You get your base pay, you get housing for allowance, and if you live on post, you don't have to pay anything. They give it to you and they take it away. Then they give you money for food.
Yeah.
You know, BAS. So they give you that when you get out. You don't get any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you have to try to find a job if you qualify that makes the equivalent.
Yeah.
You know, to kind of offset everything.
For those that are either not in the military yet or they're in the military now, you'll never have as easy of a time saving money as you will in the military. Like it's never going to be easier than it is while you're active duty.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, especially if you're in the barracks, like you go to the chow hall, live in the barracks, like you don't need a motorcycle and a truck and a freaking little like fixer upper car, you know, like just do less, do less and try to stack as much money away as possible because it will never be easier than it is right now while you're in the military.
Yeah, and it's like I even think like, man, I should have did like some sort of thrift savings plan or one of those things like when I was like making nothing. Now I look back and I was like, dang it, I should have did TSP because now my TSP would have been way up there.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn.
You live and you learn. It's very true. You live and you learn. But it's kind of one of those things that like you don't, unless you're like ahead of your peers at 18, 19 years old, you're probably not studying and trying to understand like compound interest and how that works. But like if you start saving and investing at 18 years old, you have like 5, 6, 7 years, maybe even more ahead of your peers who didn't earn until they were like 23 and they started in the hole, And so like I posted something the other day, the GI Bill, BAH is tax free, right? And so you're going to contribute up to $6,000 a year to your Roth IRA. And so if you were to max out your Roth IRA for the 36 months that you are in school using the GI Bill, and then you like never touch it again, you'll have like $1 million by the time you're 65 or 67, whatever I did the math on at that point. And that $1 million is tax free. Like the GI Bill wasn't taxed. You invested it into Roth IRA. Those withdrawals aren't taxed. And so like starting early and just like getting it, like it's better to get in a bunch now than, wait 5, 6, 7 years and start then.
Yeah. And see that I wish I'd have had that advice 20 years ago. Do that stuff. But it's like now I encourage it now and I push people to do it, especially like the guys who I know who are still in, like, hey dude, you're still in. You need to do this. Like because like for the VA disability and stuff, you don't get nothing for 60 days. There is a 60-day gap of nothing because it takes them 60 days to process your stuff and then get paid. Yeah, you get that back pay of those 2 months, sure. They'll get back to you, but there's 60 days of nothing there. So it's like you have to be prepared for that 60 days. And like how you were saying, like, then what if you're not working? Like, well, I was kind of lucky. I was already hired onto a job before I got out. So I literally had like maybe a week break and then started working.
Yeah.
So like that's not necessarily the case for everybody. Some people have a problem finding work. And luckily my work I do now kind of is the same from what I make. It's less for sure, but it's enough,
Yeah.
But there's always room for improvement and growth and like, pursuing other side things and pursuing other passions. So that way, when you're ready, you can leave your job and then pursue something you really, really like doing. And that's kind of, I think the ultimate goal is to be actually doing what you love and love what you do.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. And in addition to that, like trying to say like, don't make your plans relying on the VRNE or voc rehab, or don't make your plans relying on a certain VA rating. Like you can't rely on these things. Like, you can't guarantee yourself a certain rating or guarantee yourself a certain benefit. Like, yes, some are guaranteed, but who knows? Maybe on your way out, you do something stupid and you get, a bad discharge, and then all of a sudden you don't have the GI Bill, So you hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully, if you're forward thinking enough, that won't happen. But, at the end of the day, you can't really rely on anything but yourself, and so ensuring that you're disciplined for yourself to make sure that you are financially set and financially savvy enough to be self-sufficient is really, critical.
Oh yeah, especially if you got a family too. Like if it's just you, yeah, you can work it out. You could, you can make things a little more easier. I say easier, but like because it's just you're responsible for.
Yeah.
But for those who have families getting out, yeah, you can go live over by the river, especially if you're getting out in Hawaii, just go camp on the beach, But for those with families, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, you have to plan that stuff. You have to like really, really. And if your spouse is working, yeah, you kind of got some cover, But even then, you have to prepare for that missing chunk of what you were getting that's not there no more. So now you have to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the shock too of what happens is because especially if you move up in rank and you get decent amount, you live in a certain lifestyle, and then now your lifestyle changes, and it kind of throws you out of whack. Like you're not working, you're making less. You don't necessarily like what you do, but you need a job. So now depression kicks in, anxiety kicks in, and all that can be overwhelming. Like just have to push for, keep pushing to make yourself better. Really, is what it's all about.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, get it? Like, I don't know if it's age or it's just being out longer or what, or experience or what, but like getting stuck, in a job or in a position in life is like, for me, like my biggest fear, And so I think that most people get stuck because of the financial choices that they've made over, their history, their life. And so, I think that, like you said, getting stuck and having to stick with a job you hate leads to, like you said, depression, leads to wishing like, oh, I should have stayed in the military kind of thing. And then like increasingly a difficult transition, no matter how long that difficult transition could take for you. Which is why I just continue to try to encourage people that saving money, remaining debt-free, bad debt, like consumer debt, credit cards, truck, whatever, is going to only enable more options for you down the road so you don't get stuck. Like if you're living off of $2,000 a month and you can sustain yourself off of that, like you can make a tremendous number of moves if you decide my job is miserable, this is making me depressed, I need to go find something else. You're not going to be, you don't have the golden handcuffs where you're stuck with that job because you've got a million different debts to pay,
Right. Yeah. And that's like the ultimate ball and chain right there, working to pay off debts,
Yeah.
That's definitely, So as we come to wrap it up here, wanted just to go over a few things for people who are watching. For those interested in the tech industry, you got Vet Tech, do the Google, VETTECH, so you look that one up. And then those who lost your job, the VRRAP, right?
Yeah. So the first one is actually VETTEC. There's no H on the end of it.
Oh shit, bad data. PEC. There we go.
Mean, it's like counterintuitive the way they spelled it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then the other one is VRAP, VRRAP.
And that's just a couple of them too. That Jason was able to put out here. So and people know how I like
to do videos explain these on the YouTube channel. So
yeah, and that's the saying. If you want to go ahead and leave something for these guys here, some sort of a little motivation, inspirational for the veterans, people watching the community on, if they didn't catch anything from what we were talking about today about financial stuff and benefits, it would be this is what they need to listen to.
Yeah, man. Whether you're thinking about joining or in or out, no matter where you are in the process, if you are, struggling financially, it's not too late. It's never too late to get things in order. And I know a lot of people rip on Dave Ramsey, but Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey was a significant player in my financial life. And like, dude, every 18-year-old that joins the military should be forced to read that book. And so I, but then again, it's not too late for a 26, 27, 28-year-old to read that book. And so I think just I try to impress on people to live on less than what they think they need, and they'll have way more options than they can make themselves.
That's perfect, man. Like that's awesome. And so it boils down to that one thing that they always say in the military: have a plan. Have a plan and plan to fail.
Say I have a plan, but I actually like formulate a plan.
Yeah,
my step.
I used to tell people, have a plan, but plan to fail, so that way you learn something. Because that's how we all learn. Yeah, when we succeed, we learn stuff cool, but we really learn the most is when we fail and we fail and we fail.
So true.
That's when we learn. That's when we learn who we are. That's how we learn what our capabilities are, is by that trial and error, going over and over and over. That's how we get it. That's how we develop and grow. So
true. Yeah, 100%.
Sweet. So appreciate you for coming on here, spilling some good resources and stuff. I love when people come on and throw resources out there. If you want to check out Jason, his Instagram is there in the description. If you want to check him out right there. And I believe I added your Linktree link on there also, so that way they can check out your other stuff. Yeah, I went to your page and found that one. I do my research too. I do that. People have specific tags. Like I created a similar thing with something called Solo, where I have all my links on there for everything. So you can check him out. He posts stuff pretty frequently on there about financial stuff, especially on Instagram. He's pretty consistent on there.
Pretty consistent. I need to be more consistent.
No, I was looking at your buttons and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty good stuff. So you can check out the info he's got on there. But you do a lot of good stuff, man. I appreciate it, because I definitely saw some things I didn't know. And I'm not saying I know it all, but like the Army taught me how to research, like how to look for answers. Yeah. And there was just some stuff I saw on there and I was like, dang, I didn't know that. And I took a screenshot of it so that way I can remember it for later, and that's what it's all about.
Right on, man. Appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on and talking and sharing some stuff. And I appreciate everybody who was here watching. These will start to pick back up again. I just, needed a little bit of a break, a little bit of time off. Got a wedding to prepare for. So doing all that. So these will start kicking back up. And then I will see everyone here the following week with our next guest. Jason, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Eric. We'll stay in touch.
All right. Yep. See you guys later.